Hey everyone, this is Rangadad, not financial advice, just the way I'm looking at the market. Yeah, big day today with FOMC and earnings. Let's bring this up. This tends to be the quickest responding thing to announcements. Hang on a sec. Just check everything's working. Yeah. All right. So we've had a couple of earnings come out today already. Generally pretty positive, just sorted by market cap. The three biggest here, Microsoft, Meta, and Tesla. That's going to be a big evening. That'll set the stage for the rest of the week, I would think. And the thing that concerns me going into this FOMC is basically, where is it? This. So the sentiment dropped again yesterday for smart money, and dumb money is, I wouldn't say all in, but they're quite a way in. Definitely isn't just the tip. So the other thing is the financial sector has had some pretty big trades around the tops here. Another big one recently, which does look like it's led to a little bit of a sell. Keep that in mind. Fidelity Ethereum Fund actually got its second largest trade and made the top 5 in a couple of categories, in at least one category on the sort of daily summary. So that was an interesting one. Coinbase hasn't really had any major sells by the look of it in here. So that may actually be a buy there. Bybit hasn't had much interest today. Had a decent trade at the close yesterday, which led to a bit of a sell, but generally it's still around that level. So not a great read there. Got 2 more minutes until the conference starts, I believe. FOMC press conference. Just bring it up. Drop the volume on it. Okay, keep going. So Marathon Digital's had some interest down here as well, which, you know, there's no big sell-off since that. What else we got? So XLP. That was obviously a pretty decent sell. That's a sweep too. So consumer staples. I actually get the feeling this is going to come down, but going into this FOMC, I mean, crypto actually looks like it's poised for upside. So, and I have a feeling they're going to take the opportunity to lower the interest rates. I wouldn't say Trump's to do with it or anything like that. The only concern is we are increasing into that. So what might happen is, oh, okay, we're dropping. Let's go and have a quick look at 43. That. Ah, they kept it the same. Yeah, right. So the press conference is probably going to be the big deciding factor here. Expect some volatility in the next half hour or so while what's his face speaks. Powell. Yeah, the fact that they've kept it the same, I have a feeling will probably sell off. Powell will have to come out and say something, or the dot plots will have to be suggesting imminent cuts or something like that. In general, CBD is still pretty flat. There was actually a bit of bearish divergence on the futures CBD last candle. We are dropping, and there's quite a bit of ask coming in. It'd be pretty disappointing if we actually sell off hard from here, because I think the fact that they're so close to breaking this level, this has been a pretty highly traded zone. But the other thing here too is I think this might be a little fake out to the downside. You just look at the liquidity that we've got above here. For them not to take a run at that and then reverse, I'd be very surprised. Something's holding it down at the moment. Yeah, nothing major on. Looks like a lot of people have pulled their orders actually, just waiting for this to all play out. So we've had essentially like 3 or 4 rejections of the 1 hour 200 EMA in this area. Kind of in no man's land in terms of pivots. It's been this daily 20 basically has been really holding us back quite a bit, which, and the obviously the 1 hour 200 EMA. There's 106 on this, but I don't think 106 would necessarily be a target unless we just sweep that liquidity to the upside and keep going. I'd kind of like to still see a little bit further down into this trend line. We don't have to. We've already pretty well tagged it there anyway. But yeah, if we switch bullish on momentum, then it will be a pretty hectic run to the upside. At the moment, though, it's still down. CME is pretty similar. So Ethereum, Fidelity Ethereum had a big transaction. It could actually be a buy. Getting low on momentum, but BWP's just ticked above the signal line and momentum's heavy to the downside. It's not a great sign. It needs to be a big shift in Ethereum for it to turn around. Let's see what Litecoin's doing. A lot of the alts were pulling back a little bit into that decision. Big sell-off. The seems to want to hold the 1 hour 50 at the moment. We're only halfway through this candle though, so that's not great. Yeah. Gonna be wild. Power still hasn't come out yet. What I can see. Yeah, interesting. I mean, halfway through a candle, you always expect a pullback if it's done a big move to start with, but really need to see the second candle to see which way it's actually going to go. But that is effectively another rejection of that 800 EMA there. It's been pretty heavy resistance. The only thing is it gets weaker every time you test it. So market didn't like that. Well, it's at least trying to tell us it didn't like it. Whether that's a fake out or not, we don't know yet. Let's have a look and see what futures have done. Okay, so they recovered this vector. The fact that the futures were sort of selling off into the meeting, I took as a little bit more bullish than anything. There is a pretty decent target down here around that 6,000 mark though. I mean, treasuries have sold off a little bit today as well. What's Dixie doing? Dixie's up a little bit. I'm going to leave that for a sec. I mean, that obviously looks like a pretty decent rejection of this level, but I don't think we're going to get a real read until Powell actually comes out. The market's going to base it off what he says, I'd say. In the meantime, so both Tesla, what I added, Microsoft. So Tesla and Microsoft both sold off a little bit today. Still a couple of hours left yet before earnings. I think they're both still holding that 200 EMA actually. Nah. So Tesla's quite a bit below it. It's in a pretty good area for a bounce. Could have a bit of a, like if we recover this wick here before earnings, which kind of looks possible at the moment, Tesla comes out with good earnings and you would kind of pretty well expect that, to be honest. 370 levels, a pretty good base. Yeah, I kind of expect Tesla to go up. Microsoft's the other big one today. I don't know about Microsoft. It actually looks nasty. I mean, continuation to the upside would kind of continue this general trend it was in before that big supposed DeepSeek sell-off. But it could also be signs that it is actually going to roll over and retest these vector candles in here. Microsoft's a little bit more of a coin flip for me. It is above the 200 EMA though, so if it holds that and just ticks to the upside slightly before earnings, then I'd probably be expecting upside. Probably wouldn't be trading the earnings on this though. A little bit sketchy on that one. Meta's been on a big run, so yeah. Doesn't have a lot to come into in terms of vectors above. Quick look at Meta on the daily. So if Meta comes in like disappointing for the market, you'd want to see it try and hold this trend line. So 645-ish. It could gap down to there, and then it could even wick into this vector candle here, recover a bit more of that, and then push back up. But Meta, I would kind of expect to come down into earnings. It's probably going to depend a lot on the actual earnings call on a few of these guys as well, particularly Meta and Microsoft, because they'll have to address the DeepSeek stuff. Even though Meta didn't really have a DeepSeek issue, it had a lot of buying support on that same day that Microsoft got flogged and Nvidia got flogged. Nvidia's down again, so it could just be vector candle recovery. It is the 800 EMA on the daily. It is the point of control. It's probably, at this stage, it just looks like vector candle recovery. Momentum is to the downside though. Volatility is still high. After a gap down like that, you kind of expect that. The thing with Nvidia is earnings aren't for a couple of weeks, so all the DeepSeek stuff would have died down by then. What you don't really want to see is Nvidia climbing up and just hitting just these highs here just before earnings. I'd be a bit concerned that that's going to be the end of the road for Nvidia. Tesla's coming into a good level before earnings. Did something similar before. It sort of sold off into earnings. And then right at the end of this candle here, we actually got a little tick up in the sort of 15 minutes, half an hour before the end of the session. And then, yeah, it jumped. So Nvidia would be looking for something similar. You don't want to gap down on Nvidia. Gap down to 360 may find some support. But I guess this is the concern that you don't want to play out. Yeah, you want to see some strength coming through in these big guys. If we think that the top isn't in yet and it's going to come later in the year, April, March, May, whatever, even end of the year, I think some strength now would be handy. Home builders are struggling again. That's not a good sign. Home builders is pretty well retested this level here, found resistance. yeah, home builders and home construction is signaling that top may have actually been in, dare I say it. KRE is still struggling with that trend line. Vector candles are effectively recovered. We did get a little bit of a higher wick there just to recover everything. Still a wick up here, but at this stage, unless there's a big turnaround on markets, it needs to at least consolidate sideways for a bit, reset the momentum, reset BBWP if it's going to have a crack at it. DJI gold is actually still to the upside. DJT gold seems like it still wants to come down a bit. Yeah, DJT is not looking great. Looks like it's going to put in a lower high on DJI as well, which is probably going to drag the market down, I would suspect. Semis is down again. XLP versus SPY. Okay, so that's the first sign of something incoming. I'd suggest that that's pointing towards a decent sell-off in the markets. We haven't really broken and confirmed this trend line in a while. Don't necessarily count this as full confirmation yet. But if we get another close to the upside on XLP versus SPY, then it would suggest that we're at least going to get a decent pullback on the S&P 500. XLY, XLP is also pulling back with momentum. BBWP is dropping, but that's quite often the case when you're doing a bit of a mean reversion type move. Let's look at the equal weights. Equal weights aren't dropping as much, but momentum is starting to come to the downside. Still haven't broken the equal weight trend line. So it's not as bad a sign. Again, suggests that we may not pull back as far. Like it's potentially not going to be the major crash that's happening in this pullback when it happens. But it's still, I'm still expecting around 10%. Yeah, Staples. Staples is getting a bit of interest here. A little bit. Whereas consumer discretionary is not making a new high. Oh, look at that. Yeah, this stage looks like we're rolling over. Didn't quite hit that trend line there on the equal weight, but equal weight is suggesting things are pulling back. The Qs aren't looking too bad. Equal weight Qs, but I suspect if the S&P is going to come back more significantly, then the Qs should come with it. Yeah, still looking at 5,600 as a potential. You'd expect that to happen fairly quickly, I would think. Momentum's crossed to the downside on pretty much everything. There's a little trend line here that it might want to hold. It's not a great one. I'm actually going to get rid of that. I think that is confusing things. Yeah, it looks like the market's going to keep coming down. Why is Powell actually speaking yet? Where is he? He hasn't even come out yet. Oh, he is out. Huh? 2:30 p.m. Oh, is that another 10 minutes? Oh, fuck him. All right. Unless Powell comes out and says something profound that makes the markets happy, it looks like downside is more likely here. Like continuation over the next week or so, back at least into this week. I'd probably expect a little bit further, to be honest. Which doesn't bode well for earnings. The other thing that could hold it up is actually good earnings from the big guys, and earnings haven't been that bad yet. An interesting one here too is the Baltic Dry Index is coming down quite a bit. This actually sort of bottoms typically as the economy is starting to recover from a big dip. So it can bottom at the top though as well. Someone was using this the other day to suggest that the economy was screwed, and yeah, look, it's not great, but to use this to trade anything is pretty meh. The only thing is that if it is heading up, typically the economy is going up as well. But yeah, anyway, have a look at the skew from yesterday. Did get smashed, so that was an indication that the market was probably going to come down today. The one-day VIX is getting back into these levels, which generally occur at the bottoms. So we may actually see more of a spike on this if things are going to pull back further. You'd expect this to be spiking up into levels that have led to pretty decent bounces. So pretty close to the end, either right at the end or just a day off. But yeah, something to keep an eye on. Hasn't really gotten much higher than those levels. But yeah, I think this is definitely one to watch. If it starts to turn around back to the downside, then you can be reasonably confident that there's going to be upside coming soon. But at this stage, it's still firmly positioned to the upside. DAX is still smashing it. DAX is breaking highs. Chinese market is still breaking out, just very slowly. They even at, oh yeah, they're not back till Monday. Yeah, so all right. UK market. Not great that it seems to be putting in a lower high here. This is the key level for it. Japanese, yeah. Yeah, so treasuries, bit of sell-off. I think they were hoping for a interest rate cut. I have a funny feeling there will be an interest rate cut next month. High yield junk is pulling back now too from a pretty decent trend line. So treasuries and high yield are probably going to struggle for a little bit yet. This one here that's still my target. So the fact that this is rolling over, it does suggest downside on the markets over the coming week or so. 2-year yield. Interesting retest of that trend line. If we break above this trend line, start moving up again, then that's a little bit that's going to hurt markets, put it that way. And it kind of looks like it might do that today. 10-year has bounced off this trend line again, so it looks like potentially coming higher. Don't think these are, yeah, they're not back until Wednesday next week. Copper's still kind of bucking the trend in a way. It needs to hold this support and potentially break this upward trend line. If we can break that, copper should go on a pretty good move. But at this stage, I don't know. If the general market's coming down, might suggest copper will go with it. But at this stage, it's testing a key support. Gold, yeah, flat. I think the fact that interest rates are staying higher for longer is probably going to hold gold for a little bit. Retest of that resistance level, which should now be support. Should be an important retest. Yeah, the 50 EMA is coming into that level too. So not that that's a super importance to gold. But yeah, gold's just hovering. I do kind of expect it to come back a little bit, but it should find support. Silver's had a better day than gold. Just still retesting that trend line. I want to see closures above that trend line. Silver is resetting big time on the BBWP though. So whichever way it goes, it's probably going to be a big one. If silver closes above that trend line, I actually think it's going to break pretty hard to the upside. Got this big vector candle here that it still hasn't recovered to, but I suspect it'll punch straight through that, probably straight through that resistance, back up into the 34s. US oil's breaking down as well. So that'll be good for inflation. I'm surprised the FOMC didn't take the opportunity to drop interest rates before the data that's coming out later this week, like CPI, PCE, all that sort of shit. Just because I have a funny feeling it's not going to suggest they need to, and the economy needs it. So anyway, yeah, oil's probably going to come back into 70.3, maybe 71. It might stop at 71. There should be a bit of support there. It's been a pretty big resistance level throughout that whole consolidation area, accumulation area. Yeah, I'd suggest that's probably a good time to buy oil. if it breaks straight through that accumulation area, though, then oil's going pretty low, and it can go lower. I think production prices are in the low 50s, so oil may get down into the low 60s even. Dixie jumping back up a little bit. Dixie's poised for a decent run back up. This could see us get, like, if Dixie does break above these levels, 112 is definitely on the cards. You'd pretty well expect 112 from there. Which means Euro's probably hurting at the moment. Yeah. Euro's got a vector candle to come into there. It'll probably break down lower than that, though, if Dixie goes on a run. Japanese yen is still reasonably strong. Momentum's a bit to the downside, though. Aussie dollar's struggling, yeah, to be expected. The interesting thing about this global liquidity is the Chinese 10-year isn't trading at the moment. So it's not necessarily a true read, I would say. But it still doesn't look great. It's kind of suggesting that markets have got some reason to come down. Percentage of stocks above the 50-day hasn't actually changed that much today because it's not showing today's. It's weird that doesn't calculate real time. So yeah, this will probably slip, I would say. Mag 7 has recovered this vector here. It's probably, well, I mean, it's going to depend on what Tesla and Microsoft and that do today. They seem to be holding some reasonable levels. Microsoft being this high is a little concerning. Daily momentum is still kind of in that bullish control zone, but it could very quickly change. Apple looks like it's rejecting off that key resistance level for the time being. It announces earnings tomorrow. Today? Fuck, I never tell with these fucking things. Time zones suck. Yeah, tomorrow. That'll be a pretty big one as well, I would say. Apple's holding pretty well here. Tesla's finding a bit of support here. Tesla is still in the bearish control zone in terms of momentum. Cumulative volume delta is still definitely to the downside as well. No real divergence in the volume either at the moment. MACD is still trending down. What you want to see is the last couple of candles before the close. You want to see some pretty big volume coming in, and for Tesla to actually make its way a little bit to the upside. If you're a bull, that is. If you're a bear, you just, yeah, you want to see it just continue, obviously. Getting a bit of interest now, so Yeah. I think if Tesla and Microsoft get destroyed, Meta gets destroyed, then the market's definitely pulling back. At the moment, most indicators are suggesting the market needs to pull back a little bit anyway. That's probably going to be the catalyst, I would suggest. Powell's now talking, so all right, I'm gonna leave you with that. There's not a lot else to go through. Um, Total crypto market cap actually has some vectors to the downside here, but sorry, that was stable coins versus Bitcoin. Have a quick look at that. So that's actually pretty well confirmed above that trend line, which means people are moving into stable coins. I'd kind of expect that to continue. That's not a great sign for Bitcoin. You need this to reverse back below that trend line. But at this stage, it's not looking like doing that. Yeah, total crypto market cap is still in a downward trend with increasing BBWP at the moment, so that's not great. Suggesting, yeah, Bitcoin might come down with the rest of the market. Market's still holding okay at the moment. Let's just a quick look. Still a bit of reaction there on what Powell's saying. Seems to be finding some support here on this reclaim of this vector. It's a pretty good retest of the 200 EMA and then move to the downside though. So cumulative volume delta is actually tending to the upside here. That's some pretty good volume divergence there. Yeah, it looks like we might bounce. Whatever Powell's saying, the market seems to like it so far. Didn't like the fact that interest rates were kept on hold, but I'd say he's got a bit of a dovish tone at the moment. So see if Bitcoin's reacting the same way. Yeah, it is. All right, I'm actually reasonably happy with this as the start of a potential upside move. Momentum's already a bit higher than what I would like from the start of a move sort of perspective. So if we reject off that 200 again, won't be great. But it looks like at this stage it wants to break that. Good volume, obviously. Going for it. Yeah, okay. The market likes whatever Powell's saying. That's why you always be careful of that first move. It's quite often the false move. Holy shit, the market really likes it. Watch the reaction at this level here, 103, 900. That's been a decent trend line. If we break above that, which Jesus Christ, it looks like it's going to. Glad I have a long on. Might find some resistance here. Will we? Will we? Maybe. Yeah, it looks like it's getting a bit of resistance there. At the same time, though, I would expect any pullback into 102, 750 ish should be met with buying demand, a bit of a vector recovery, even down into 102. It's trying really hard to break into that 104. What we don't want to see is a massive sell-off off this wick. That would be nasty. All right, I'll leave that with you. It's kind of, if we break above this trend line, that is likely the start of a pretty good move. Going to have some resistance, probably around the 106-ish area as well. Funnily enough, the liquidity levels were a big part in this. Like, you look at what it was sitting at before the FOMC. We came down, tagged a few, got a little bit there to the downside, and then we've just swept all of that. We've taken most of it as well, so that was an interesting level in that we've gotten most of the liquidity out of the system in the like close to us to the upside, and we've hit that key trend line that has been pretty good resistance over the last week or so. It's just a matter of if we get through that trend line, 107's definitely on the cards, but I would suggest the momentum is going to be such that we will actually break further to the upside. If we come back and we close this daily below that 20 EMA, that won't be ideal, that's for sure. Yeah, if stochastic momentum on the daily swings to the upside, either today or tomorrow, and BBWP is coming off such a big low, then that would be suggesting a pretty massive move to the upside. It would also confirm this move on the 5-day. So the 5-day, you would definitely be expecting that to play out, which is a bigger measured move, somewhere around what would it be? About 130, 120, something in that region. Even the 2-day would basically tick back to the upside on increasing BBWP. So bit of hope in there for the Bulls. We just got to get through that key level, and Powell's got to not say anything too stupid in the next, well, the rest of his speech, basically. Pretty big wick to the upside there, though. You want to see a continuation of that. To do it on the 5-minute. Yeah, the 5 minute, that's a pretty decent move. Yeah, pullbacks into here are likely. All right, that'll do, mate. I'll catch you later.